Okay, live stream is active. Meeting's being recorded. Let's do it.
All right. We will call this special meeting of the Board of Finance to order. I'll do a roll call of the Board of Finance members to make sure everyone's on. Myself, Tim O'Brien, Glenn Frischman, and Dave Motherway are all in attendance at the police department together and as measured, separated by 6 feet or more actually. So that's why you see us not masked, is that we're able to separate out. Mike Fauerbach, are you on?
I'm present.
Lynn Young?
Here.
Bob Satchin?
Present.
And Deb Norman?
Here.
All right, and then Jim Sullivan, we've got you on too, I believe. I'll take silence as a yes.
Not muted.
Jim, are you connected? Because we can't hear you right now. Roger, do you have a cell? I got a cell. Just text him and see if... Jill, are you on?
Yep, I'm here.
Great, you're on, Jill. We're going to make sure that Jim Sullivan is on and can hear us, and that we can hear him in case this comes up. Apologize for the delay. Technology is a wonderful thing when it works.
Can you hear me now, Tim?
There you are. Yep, now we got you, Jim. Perfect.
All right, I had to swap out headsets.
No problem. That sounds perfect now. You're coming through loud and clear. All right. First order on the agenda is new business is budget presentations. First one up is solid waste with SIP, and John Pettiplace, you are on, I believe, and I will turn it over to you. John, you might be muted. John, we can see you, but we can't hear you right now.
Yeah, he's muted.
Okay, I got it.
There you go. Perfect.
I was trying to unmute from the wrong place. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
First, I'd like to introduce myself, John Pettiplace. There's a couple new members I haven't met. So I'm the director of solid waste, and I'd also like to say thanks for letting us do this from remote locations. I think hopefully it'll work out okay. If you have any questions, let me know. Tim, should I just start from my narrative and kind of go through, or is there any format you want me to follow?
What we've been doing is just kind of highlight your narrative, kind of like we've done in meetings in the past, and then go through your budget, any highlights, big hits that you want to make sure we understand. Okay.
Okay. I guess I'll start with what I think is the biggest thing for us, which is starting in January, we started delivering all of our MSW up to the Wheelabrator plant in Lisbon. So we are completely separated from Preston now. We have a 10-year contract that started in January. I think what's important about that is I'm sure some of you have been reading different articles about the crisis in Connecticut. And for us, that crisis is not going to be in the next 10 years. because we have this long-term contract. We started negotiating it almost 4 years ago. And we were lucky to be negotiating from a position of strength because we had the opportunity to go to Preston or to Lisbon, and we were able to negotiate with both parties. So we were able to get a really beneficial deal. The tip fee starting in January is $69 a ton. Our tipping fee will be $58 a ton because the Regional Trash Authority, SCARA, will subsidize the additional amount. And they've been subsidizing us forever. But that leaves us at $58 for this next year. I won't be surprised if we don't see a little bit of an increase next year because that $69 tip fee will also have a CPI indicator as well. So I'm not sure we'll try to keep up completely with the CPI, but we certainly will start seeing a few increases in our tip fees as we go along. The other important thing to point out is just how much of a subsidy we get outside of tipping fees from SCARA. So SCARA is subsidizing our hazardous waste collections, our tub grinding, just a number of things. The value to the town this year was above $750,000 in subsidies, which does include the transportation subsidy we receive because we're farther away from the delivery location than other towns. And it also includes our tip fees and so forth. So it's a substantial amount of money being subsidized through the authority. The authority is in really good shape as well. I think that's important just to ease people's minds. We are operating from a tip fee stabilization fund. So that fund comes from, in the last few years of our original contract, we received a large energy share, if you will. We had a contract that in those outer years, the electric company was required to buy electricity from us at a pretty high rate. It was part of that contract over 25 years. So in the last probably 2 years or so, we made, I don't want to say exactly how many, but certainly $40–50 million in energy that's allowed us to have this stockpile so that we can subsidize trash for the next 10 years. Our goal now is to find ways to make that subsidy last certainly longer than 10 years. And as we go through this, I'll explain some of the things we've been working on. Probably the biggest thing that we can do now is to hopefully reduce or remove food waste from the mix, because we think we'll end up seeing a huge savings there. And that's primarily what the authority's focusing on now, is siting a local facility so we could start commercial and residential separation of food. That would certainly save Stonington money, save the authority a lot of money too, and hopefully make that stabilization last this much longer. The crisis we're seeing in Connecticut is mainly because you're going to lose the Mid-Con plant probably in 2024. And there's about 50 towns right now that are signed up with Mid-Com, and they won't have an option. So waste will be starting to go out of state, and then there'll be pressure, obviously, on the rest of us. Again, we're set for 10 years, but that second 10-year contract we may try to get is going to have a lot of pressure on that. So we're hoping to find ways around that. Recycling markets still pretty depressed. They're improving. Our scrap metal rate, I think right now is about $1.50, which was in last year at this time probably about 80. So things are improving. SCARA subsidizes that tipping fee for us as well on the single stream market to a considerable amount. We think we have a reset on that contract, I think in about less than a year. I'm not sure if it's 6 months. And we'll probably see some improvement. We're paying $70 a ton right now. Hopefully we can cut that in half. Again, we don't specifically pay for it because the authority pulls that out of that tip fee stabilization as well. But we're trying to do everything we can to improve those markets to again, save money. On a bright spot, we started textile collection this year, been wildly successful. We're doing probably 4 times what they told us we would do. I think it's a combination of things. It's a combination of we have pay as you throw, but it's also, we started our textile collection program the same month that everybody went into lockdown. So everybody cleaned their closets, and they told us we would get, in the first couple of weeks, we would probably see, say, 60 to 80 bags is what they typically get. And we were seeing like 400 and 500 bags. We've dropped down, but we're still seeing probably 80 to 100 bags a week, which is what most programs do only in the very beginning. So I think, again, that volume-based program encourages people to find other routes for things. For us, it's not a huge dollar amount. We've probably saved $6,000, $8,000 so far, but it's still something. And it's not costing us anything. The hauler picks up the bags at no cost to us. He's given the few cents a pound that the value is for it, but our cost avoidance is pretty significant. So I'm estimating now we're somewhere between 60 and 90 tons that we've diverted. I don't have real good numbers because the company hasn't been, it was difficult for them in the first 6 months or so of COVID because they didn't have people. So they were just collecting the clothes, but weren't necessarily documenting everything. So hopefully in the next year, we'll have better numbers on textiles. Tipping fee will remain 58 for this year. And again, our revenues, we're collecting, close to 75% of what it costs to run our program. Most of that money comes from commercial and residential collection programs. So the money we receive from bags and then the money we bill to commercial customers is a significant amount of recovering that budget. We also have some revenues from recycling and so forth. So we're covering a good deal of our expenses, but not all of them. So objectives for the coming year, what I've been working on pretty hard is trying to get food composting going. So we have had a lot of stops and starts. We need to get permits. We need to try to site a facility locally so it makes sense for us to collect food and then bring it somewhere. We did a pilot about 10 years ago. It was successful. It was just commercial, but we had to drive it to Richmond, Rhode Island, which just wiped out any financial advantage. So what we're trying to do now is site something locally. If we can get something within our region, within 20 miles, say, of every town, commercial businesses will have to contribute. Right now, there is a site or two, possibly in North Stonington, which would be great for Stonington because it's not far away. That would allow us then to set up these programs. So we're working to get those things in place. Major budget changes. This is the good year for us in residential collection because this is the year, some of you will remember, when we lost the last hauler bought out by CWPM, rates were going high. We contracted with Crandall. We had basically $100,000 increase for 2 years, and then the third year, no increase. So that's where we are now. So we had no increase this year. We could possibly see one more year of that. We'll see how it goes. But so far, so good. We're very happy with the service. This has been a pretty difficult year with a lot of private roads, lots of snow, but I still think he does the best he can, and we don't have a lot of complaints. So I've been pretty happy with that. The bag costs are remaining steady, but you'll see there is about a $15,000 increase for bag costs. That's just because I think COVID, more people are home. The commercial trash is way down, but the residential trash is way up. So we've needed more yellow bags. I'm estimating that's about how much I think we'll see. It's hard to predict what's going to happen in the next year. Is COVID going to bring more people back to the office? Are we still going to have people at home? I think it's reasonable to assume you're going to have a bit of both. So I have increased what I think we're going to need there. Commercial collection is up a contractual 3%. This is the year we will be negotiating a new contract. So we'll see what happens there. We have a few options, but we're going to have to basically go out to bid and see what we get. It's advantageous to haulers to get a contract like ours because they don't have to worry about uncollected bills. Typically in the business, haulers lose about 10% of their income through just non-payment. Customers don't pay the bill, then they just switch to a new hauler. With the town, we always pay our bills, so they like to have these types of contract because they know they're going to get paid. If somebody doesn't pay the bill, we're the ones that take the hit. But we don't take much of a hit. Jill has been really active in keeping on top of collections. We have very few people. We have 380 commercial customers. Very few people shut off. In fact, I think right now nobody's shut off, and very few people owing even up to 3 months. So again, I'm kind of shocked. I thought with COVID we would see a lot of non-payments. That just hasn't happened for us. So I think we're fortunate. You're going to see some decreases in fuel prices, even though we're going to be driving to Lisbon. That's primarily because last year when I set the numbers, we didn't have a contract yet, so we used the previous year, and then the rate that we had for this past year was higher than what the contract came in at. So at the time of the budget, we had budgeted higher. So I was able to reduce that sum, even though I've also had to increase it to cover additional trips to Lisbon, additional miles. But so it still comes out as a savings for us. I've reduced parts and labor a little bit because we have a new roll-off truck. We just put some serious money last year into one of our loaders, so I'm hoping that we're going to be good there. And the disposal fee line item I reduced by about $30,000, mainly because tonnage has dropped significantly. I was hesitant to drop it completely back to what I saw for this year because I'm hoping that things come roaring back, say come August, September. But I did drop it some because I can't imagine the whole thing's going to recover. I think there are going to be some changes in how we do things. So I'm comfortable that we've dropped it 32,000, but I still have a little bit of room if things improve. I think staffing is what it always is. The one big request I had this year, I'm requesting $4,600 for basically for summer help. The transfer station has gotten so busy all week long. It's kind of remarkable, but the weekends especially have gotten just really crazy. We are seeing, the way we were calculating it, sometimes we're seeing someone every minute coming into the transfer station. It takes, usually 5 to 10 minutes at the very least to get in and out. We're just seeing just so many people. It's difficult for us to handle it on the weekend. We have a limited staff of 3 people. Sometimes you need to have 2 people in the gatehouse just to handle what's coming in. It doesn't leave you someone up top supervising and making sure that we're not getting hit on the other end with people putting things where they shouldn't be. The traffic is crazy, and you have a lot of people who bring their kids and their dogs for an outing. So between all of that, I probably should have done this a couple of years ago, but I do think it's critical if we could have some help just during the summer months. It allows us to have a runner between up top and the gatehouse. It has someone to fill in where, someone pushing the recycling compactor, someone filling in all those things that we're just not getting to. I do think it's not just a matter of reducing how much work everyone's doing, but I think it's a matter of safety. The traffic there can be pretty bad. Should I do SIP now, Tim, or?
Let me ask if any members have any questions about operating budget.
Just one question, John, on the food recycling. Is that to accept things that would be normally composted or all food waste, like bones, whatnot?
So we're doing two things, Glenn. The first is, if you've noticed, there's a big black pipe at the transfer station near the leaf composting. That's a pilot we're doing. It's going to be a one-time 30 yards of food waste. Not sure where it's coming from yet. It'll be all brought in within a week or so. And the goal is for us to lay that down. That pipe is going to aerate the pile. You mix it with some carbon, some wood chips, some leaves. We have some hemp there right now from some hemp farm. That'll all get mixed in. We're going to hopefully compost that over 30 to 60 days and have a product. The purpose of this, SCARA is paying for all of that, by the way, including that beautiful pad they put down that we can use later, and running power to that pad. The purpose is so we can demonstrate to the deep what our product will look like when we do this regionally for SCARA. But the program I'm trying to put together would be curbside and or businesses, and it would be all food. So it's meat, bones, it's not just greens. And that's why I think, right now we're recycling, we're generating about 380, 390 pounds per person per year in Stonington. In our region, they're generating about 700 to 30 pounds per person per year. So we're about half of what everybody else is. If we can do food, I'm estimating we can maybe drop that down to 240, 250, which would be significant savings for us. There's not a lot of places you can go to save now because pay-as-you-throw really gives you that huge bump. And I think our guys are so well taught in recycling. We're not going to recycle our way out of any more of this, but if we can add things like food, that's huge.
That's a major cost avoidance. That has a lot of potential.
And it's a huge cost avoidance, and I'm trying to convince the state that it's to their advantage to pay for the pilot, because with pay-as-you-throw, and if we did food, we could demonstrate to the rest of the state that you can get your rate down to where it is. And instead of having to build infrastructure to handle waste, they could come up with a system that would save 50% of the waste they're generating and at least avoid the crisis for now and give them some time to get the technology to catch up.
This composted product, what would this be used for?
This compost?
Composting.
So the compost that we would generate would be, it's pretty incredible stuff. Because this would be at the regional level, what SCARA is going to investigate is whether we bag it and sell it, whether we sell it in bulk to landscapers and residents. But that's only one component of it. There'd be a product sale piece. There would be a cost avoidance piece. Remember, if SCARA can get all of the towns to do this kind of thing, that pile of money, that tip fee stabilization money, lasts them a lot longer and lasts us a lot longer. So that's the goal.
Great.
Other questions from other members?
John, it's Mike Fowlerback. Quick question for you. You talked about fuel prices going down because of negotiating a better rate. You're leveraging the same contract as the town, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so all right, well, maybe it's a question then later for Barbara when we get into the highway. I was just noticing, some of her fuel prices going up while yours are going down. So,
but Barbara, it may be because Barbara used a different figure. When I did my budget last year, I was told to use the existing figure. She may have had a different figure for that. I don't know.
Okay, all right, we'll get there, I guess, later when Barbara
Okay.
done. All right, thank you.
Yeah, but I guess, John, to what you said earlier was we're going to different locations. However, even though it's further, you're seeing already some savings and some mitigations of that. So prior year, comparisons are not necessarily just fuel costs, but fuel usages combined together. Is
Exactly.
what I heard. Okay.
Exactly.
Hey, John, it's Lynn. I just want to say you've done a lot of forward thinking here and some really good contracting work, on contracts. And I'm impressed. That's all I want
Thank
to say.
This is really suddenly, I think because the state's in a crisis, suddenly all of this stuff is boiling to the top again, and they know they have to do something. The state has put together this CCSMM, which is this committee to kind of take a look at all the different areas where we can save. The DEEP is really pushing pay as you throw. We're one of the few that do it. Everybody knows it works. I'm getting like 1 million calls about it. And what we're trying to do is find a way to get everybody to promote that. SCARA is actually going to start discussing, as we do our 10-year plan, maybe having a 2-tiered tipping fee system, where if you have pay as you throw, you pay a lower tipping fee than if you don't. And the purpose being, if we were generating twice as much waste, we're going to use quite a bit more of that subsidy. So if you get all the towns to follow suit, that subsidy can last a lot longer. So we're exploring that. We're exploring a bunch of things. What the plan for SCARE will be is Dave Aldrich, who's the executive director, once we put this plan together, he's going to go to the CEOs of all the towns and let them know exactly where we are, what we think we need to do for a 10-year plan, and so forth. And we're hoping to have it within this year, that there is this comprehensive, here's what we need to do. So.
Well, if you make it monetary, you might get somewhere. I watched New London shoot it down. What was that, last year?
Yeah, and I worked with them a bit, Lynn, and went to some of their meetings and tried to talk to them about it. And it really is, partly it's just the whole social media thing, and it's easy to throw something out there that isn't factual. The Public Works Department there and some of the leadership really were in favor of pushing this program. They knew this would really help them.
Yeah.
And in the end, it got tabled. It was really too bad.
Well, again, you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, John, go ahead and go into SIP, please.
So 2 things in SIP. One being the loader. We have always traditionally, we've financed this over 5 or 6 years, and that's what I'm attempting to do. I was asked at the Board of Selectmen meeting if that first 25 could be kind of reduced some, and as long as the total came out the same, and I would be fine with that. I just think realistically, the loader is the key piece of equipment for our transfer station, certainly if we're doing any composting, those kinds of things. So I would ask that even if it does get cut to a few $1,000s this year, as long as we keep an eye on keeping it to that figure over the course of 6 years. And then the other piece I'm requesting, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Jim about this today, but I mentioned it to him in the past. I have $5,000 a year in for 3 years for foam tires. The reason we have foam tires is because we're working in a lot of debris, and you can't have regular tires. They have to be solid. We probably need them sooner than later. I put in for a 3-year plan. This would be 2nd year and still 1 more year to go. What I'd like to request is that I could just remove it out of SIP. I know I'm going to have some surplus this year. And what I'd like to be able to do is towards, say, the end of May or June, purchase the new tires with the money I have. I only need 2. I had 15. It looks like, and I don't have a final price, but I think we can do it probably for about $11,000. And so that would hopefully be agreeable to everybody. Instead of keeping it in SIP, let me just go ahead and get the tires, and would save money out of the SIP piece.
John, without polling the board formally, I think that everything you have demonstrated of what you've done, I think I can say with confidence that you'll get support from the Board of Finance. If you've got that money now, that we would get that to happen sooner, not later with you. What
Okay.
you've done is fairly remarkable here for a small town in Stonington. We're still very much leading the state, and I would hasten to guess also regionally, and should be commended for that. And looking at using money that you have left over to buy some foam tires to preserve what you're doing, I think we can support that.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, if that's okay, when I'm ready, I'll do something to transfer into parts and labor so that I can buy the tires. Since our tonnage is down, I know I'm gonna have some money there for sure. I'm anticipating sending a fair amount back. So I was comfortable that would work, and that way it could come out of SIP. And I will say, Tim, that we really have become the poster child for all of this. So I'm hearing from people weekly about, getting questions and what do we do? And I do a lot of speaking for the Deep now and stuff, but it's a program that works. It's just, I don't understand why it's having so much trouble at the state level. Massachusetts started promoting this about 5 years ago, and now half of their towns do it. In Connecticut, we're still the only one with a true volume-based or unit-based program. A few other towns have it, but it's only if you use their transfer station or what have you. But
John, I remember the conversation when we first went to court to take over the waste stream.
Yeah, we went to the Supreme Court on that one, Glenn. State Supreme Court.
You and I are flank owners.
Any questions from board members for John on any of this? No. All right, as a frequent user of the transfer station, I'd like to thank you for all you guys do over there, and keep up the good work, and I appreciate your time.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Good night,
John.
everybody. Good night, Jill.
Good night, John.
Thank you, everybody.
I feel like our Zoom meeting has got to be like the Walton family where everyone was, All right, next item on the agenda is Public Works, and I understand that Barbara and crew are together in Town Hall. There they are.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Barbara McCrell, and I'm the Director of Public Works. I'm here with Chris Greenlaw, our new town engineer who started at the end of July, and Tom Curioso, Highway Supervisor and now Facility Manager. I'm going to share a presentation with everybody. Can everyone see that?
I printed it.
Yes.
Is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're grateful for the opportunity to discuss our budget. We'd like to start with this presentation. And what we're doing is, Chris started here he started here at the end of July. He's been here for about 6 months. He's got some things that he can report on since he's been here, but we're basically trying to combine our presentation together as one unit. So DPW staff commits to bring our best to work each day with positive professional attitudes towards providing the highest level of service. Public Works includes 3 divisions: engineering, highway, and facilities. In total, there are 24.5 employees. We've requested, so what you see is there's our highway group and everyone in the highway group. Tom Curioso is now the facilities manager. We have 1.5 building maintainers, But in this budget, we've requested to increase that to 2 building maintainers, so adding on another 1/2 building maintainer. And engineering is requesting approval to hire an intern. And that's our big thumbs up to everybody. Highways primary services are shown. We spend approximately 50% of our time doing highway-related work and 39% parks and recreation. And I provided you a detailed breakdown of the numbers already that should have been given to you previously of exactly how highway spends all of their time. Every day we track their hours, their assignments on jobs, and then we take that information and we compile it into the report for you. Engineering includes only the town engineer. What this shows is his primary services and how he juggles multiple tasks every day. Facilities has really benefited from the addition of a half-time maintainer that was approved last year. With their assistance, we've been able to troubleshoot and resolve issues before they become emergencies. Last year, DPW divisions united, resulting in common goals: infrastructure improvements, regulatory and environmental compliance, optimizing management efforts. The work on the bridge preservation program is an example of this. What I want to continue to work towards is being more proactive and less reactive. And what you're looking at in the picture is it's the bridge over into the borough. And if you look in the middle, we're missing a light. We're missing a light because this infrastructure is aged. The posts on every single light on this bridge have basically corroded. And every time we get a heavy wind event or some sort of storm event, a light falls off. And so what I'm encouraging and what I would like to go towards is not have that light fall off before we fix it, for us to actually go out there and replace those lights before they fall off. We all face similar challenges. It seems responsibilities and projects expand. The picture shown to the right is Mechanic Street. Highway checks and repairs all of the drainage on roadways before any major paving is completed. What we thought was only a catch basin rebuild resulted in replacement of the entire failed drainage infrastructure in several areas of Mechanic Street. So this is a photo of the pipe that we pulled out of the ground. It's a metal corrugated pipe. And this shows how the corrosion, the pipe is basically corroded along the entire length of the pipe. So this is, you go down Mechanic Street, you might see that it's just been paved, but we basically spent the year before the paving project this year going in and pulling out the failed drainage system and replacing it. Our responsibilities are diverse in every division. Just to list a few, our facilities division and the highway division all assisted with COVID response. What you see on the left-hand side is we created lists for cleaning, frequency of cleaning. Our maintenance crews went every day and still are cleaning certain locations, checking off that it's been cleaning, and we've been recording that information. What the center shows is this year we paved Asher Avenue, and this shows one of the catch basins that we completely rebuilt in-house. And on the right-hand side, you'll see these signs go up every year before we start our paving projects. And this year, the highway department provided traffic control for every paving project, saving us potentially tens of thousands of dollars, making the work go much more smoothly because you have somebody out there that knows the community, knows the roadways. Taking a look at the numbers, you know, how do we assist the police department? In the last year, we've been called in by the police 45 times. Trees down, signs down, you name it, flooding. This year, we were called in by the police 22 times to address ice and snow. Where does the money go on the fields? This past year in 2020, we put down about 500 gallons of paint, painting the lines for all of the events that happen out there. We collected 67 tons of trash. We collected 718 tons of debris and 160 tons of catch basin spoils. And that's basically equivalent to 170 elephants. So over the last year, we've collected 170 elephants of waste. Our fields are so well maintained that a product supplier used a photo of one of our fields on their catalog. And if you look at the catalog that's come up from this supplier, you'll see the Stonington High School in the back. I want to end with a few more photos showing some of the things we accomplished this year. Unlike other departments, what we do and who we work with changes every day. My highly skilled team is able to adapt to change quickly, work both with a team and independent to get work done. Every job is important to us, from picking up trash to cleaning restrooms, maintaining fields, executing pavement rehabilitation, responding to residents' requests, to creating bridge preservation programs, and creating clean water through our MS4 program. Thank you for supporting the Department of Public Works. And that concludes my presentation. So what I think is the best thing to do is I can go through, if you would like, I can go through my commentary of the items that we have listed already or major budget changes. Would that be the best way to proceed?
That'd probably be good, Barbara, thanks.
Okay. So in my budget commentary, I had listed sidewalk repairs. Let's see, sidewalk repairs. I have an increase in sidewalk repairs. Well, actually, so I increased it to 100, then we put it up to 150,000. And the town maintains 98,000 square yards or 33.98 miles of sidewalk. So based upon an inspection completed in 2019, there's a backlog of $4.3 million of repairs. Therefore, the current funding is insufficient. Failure to maintain this infrastructure puts the town at risk for continued legal action related to injuries in the right-of-way. So the tree trimming line item has been increased. The town is facing an environmental crisis of diseased trees.
Wait, Barbara, it's Lynn. Can I go back to those sidewalks for a sec?
Sure.
What kind of sidewalks is it that the town's got to maintain versus, you know, whoever's got the frontage?
The town maintains all of the sidewalks in the right-of-way, even along private property.
They do?
Yes.
Okay.
And along state roads. So that we have accepted responsibility for all sidewalks, all driveway aprons, and on town roads and on state roads.
And then in the borough, for example, it's still the homeowner's responsibility. They just elected not to do that. Is that the deal?
The borough has their own public works department.
Yeah, no, I know. But in the borough, whoever owns the frontage is responsible. So they must have elected not to.
Yeah, they've adopted a different policy.
Okay.
So, should I continue? Okay.
Yep, go ahead, Barbara.
So tree trimming. The town is facing the environmental crisis of diseased trees. Right now, although this year we have been able to have Eversource remove about $40,000 of diseased trees in our right-of-way, we are at a point in our budget where we will be not negative, but we'll have expended our entire budget at this point. Additional resources are needed to help deal with the fallout of trees infested, weakened, or killed by emerald ash borer beetle, gypsy moth caterpillars, and drought. All of these trees are left in place and they create a hazard of falling trees or limbs that have weakened and no longer able to withstand winds. Even in the wind that we had just this morning, police called us in to remove trees that had fallen in the right of way. And so we're constantly out there doing that. And so we're requesting additional funds to address this. Catch basin cleaning. This is a mandated MS4 measure. The budget increase will allow the town to increase the number of basins cleaned, address any increase in costs. This work is contracted out because we don't have a vacuum truck to do the work, and protect the surrounding town water resources. So gas and oil. Amounts and categories were modified due to changes in equipment and fuel type needs. Due to last year's light winter, our usage is not a typical yearly average. Therefore, a small increase is requested to address any increase in cost. So, and I guess to Mike's question too, when we work, we have, we don't have regular work. We have, diverse assignments. We might have more driving because of a heavy winter. And so our gas usage is not as predictable as it would be for the transfer station, as it would be for the buses that are driving the same route every day. And so our gas usage will go up and down. And that's why I've placed the gas prices where they are right now, or the gas budget where it is right now. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, highway, it goes in on the bid contract, with the schools, correct? School department. Is that contract been let?
I don't. Barbara, do you know when the contract was negotiated with the schools for for diesel and gas?
For them to use our gas station, or the new contract for fuel?
New contract for fuel.
I don't remember, no.
Okay.
I think, Tim, this is Jim. I think it was around last year in March or April when the gas prices dropped significantly. In fact, I think we're locked in for 2 or 3 years. We could, they would, the Board of Ed contracts for fuel for the whole
Right.
town.
That's what
I remember that too.
Thanks, Jim.
So, okay, we have added a line item for bridge. Well, actually, we have increased the line item for bridge maintenance. And my commentary is incorrect. We have 17 bridge structures. We have recently engaged in a high-level study of all structures. It's revealed that several have low rating conditions. And so this line item would basically be funding that would be utilized for maintenance items that are non-structural issues on the bridges. This would be, for instance, sidewalk repair, railings, just curbing, those types of things. Let me see. Sweeper repairs and maintenance. MS4 mandates sweeping of all town roadways annually. As part of our permit, the town is required to report a financial level of effort to support the mandates. Therefore, we are separating the cost into a new line item to allow this effort to become more transparent to the state and to allow us to report it more clear. So materials, several line items have been increased to support in-house work addressing our failing drainage systems. For example, the cost of a new catch basin top is approximately $400. This year we replaced 46 tops, which would cost $18,400 just for the tops. This doesn't include piping, blocks, or concrete. If you look, Public Works is a group that take materials and create things. So if we're actually able to utilize our materials and to use our materials, it means that we're doing more work. If you look at the other budgets, the other departments, the police don't make anything. They have employees that patrol, and so there's no materials in their budget. There's very few materials in even the transfer station's budget. And so with Public Works, we build things. And so the more materials we're able to be provided, the more we're able to accomplish. So at field maintenance, seasonal help funding reflects 3 employees at 29 hours a week at the rate of $15 an hour from April 1st to November 15th. These are positions that are approved in the union agreement, and they primarily support grounds maintenance. So we've been spending more each year to increase our natural nutrients, biostimulants, and cultural practices. We're focusing on aerodynamics? I don't know. Steve, sorry. I have this employee who is a licensed pesticide applicator and studies diligently on all of this, and that's why our fields look so good, and he wrote this for me. He does soil testing. He builds on giving the turf exactly what it needs. This allows the turf to be more resilient and vigorous and allows it to stand up to the wear and tear our fields get. This proactive approach, in turn, reduces the need for herbicide applications and builds a better foundation than just the spray and pray method that we've done in the past, which is also cheaper. We've also had to absorb many costly repairs to the irrigation systems, fencing, and electrical infrastructure that we've inherited. These costs were never really factored in when this operating budget was put together many years ago, which takes away from the program that we've built. And that's all I have for the highway department.
Questions from, or go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, so I don't know if Danielle is on the call or not, or can talk,
She's
but
sitting here with us and
so we can hear her. Yeah, so Danielle, you increased the sidewalk budget by 50,000.
Yeah, you come up here. Just.
Lynn, I did, like Barbara had mentioned, a couple of years ago, she had done this ADA accessibility survey, and I think we were funding it at about 1% a year, 1% of sidewalks would get done. So we thought this amount would be a modest request amount, but Barbara, feel free to jump in if I'm misrepresenting anything.
No, that's completely accurate. So at the level that we're funding it, I don't have the exact figures now, but at the level that we were funding it, it was almost that we would have them all repaired in something like 50 years. And that would be based on no depreciation of condition. And so, so at the level that we were funding it, it was never going to be achieved.
But this is not for the crosswalks.
Well, this is specifically for the sidewalks, and then I have
for stuff that. But what I mean is, it's for stuff that exists now, right?
Exactly.
So the ADA stuff is in the SIP.
This is all existing sidewalks. So the evaluation was done of all existing sidewalks. It's actually the initial investigation and survey and report was done in response to our requirement to look at accessibility within the right of way and to track the work that we're doing and try and make progress on making our right of way more accessible.
Okay.
It's Mike, can I just build off that? I was curious as well on that 150, relative to the $4.3 million backlog that you cited, Barbara. It'd be helpful to understand kind of what are the priorities there? What does that get you? I mean, is there a specific, if we grant the 150, is there a specific plan, a priority A list that this 150 would cover? Or is it more just, we got a big backlog and any money we can get is helpful?
Well, so we do have a plan that looks at locations that have a higher priority. And I look at this also in combination with my paving. I'm not able to actually do any capital level paving work until I have made the sidewalks and the ramps accessible. And so, for example, one of the roads that is on my 5-year paving plan is Palmer. So I look in at the neighborhoods that are, more concentrated in population, and areas that are around schools, and have those kind of prioritized as locations that I would address first. So the other thing that this would also do is, right now I have to go in and address these sidewalks before I do any paving. And I'm basically forced to pull that sidewalk money out of the paving budget. Over the last 6 years or 5 years since I've done the pavement management program, our condition rating has gone down about 1.5 points, a percentage and a half, 1.5%. And so, besides the paving being underfunded, I have to then draw money out of this paving budget to do sidewalks. And so we're not really actually getting the paving that we need to get done, because I have to split off some of that money and do sidewalks in advance.
Other questions from members?
This is David Milleray. I have a question. When we do new sidewalks, are we doing fully concrete, or are we doing
Bituminous?
granite with a concrete walkway?
We typically do concrete. We only have done the granite when it's part of a streetscape project, and that's when you'll see down in the Pawcatuck and the Mystic area. What I typically try and do is just replace what's there in kind. With the exception of if it's asphalt. If it's asphalt, we'll put concrete back in, because concrete has a longer life and a greater ability for us to get the slopes that we need to be compliant for accessibility.
Thank you.
Other questions from members?
I have another one. So Barbara, if we do the bridge work, the $75,000, dollars and whatnot, and I know that doesn't really go very far, but does that impair our ability to get state funding for anything for those bridges?
It would be a different fund. The state fund, I guess I'll let Chris, whatever he said. The state funding would basically, I'll let you read.
Good evening, Chris Greenlaw, Town Engineer. How are you
Hey,
doing
Chris.
this evening? So what we have established are two funds. We have a fund in the operations account for maintenance of bridges, and those are non-structural items, as Barbara spoke to earlier, which would fund the sidewalks, the curbing, the metal beam rail, the fencing, the lights, non-structural items. And then I believe it was last month, we visited you in the Board of Finance, and we requested funding in a line transfer to fund a CIP account as part of our bridge preservation program. And that funding, that we'll speak to a little bit more in depth later, will be the funding for the structural items. It'll be for looking at bridge replacement, bridge repair, structural interim repairs, and design thereof. So it's kind of to bifurcate the monies. The monies we're talking about right now are non-structural in the operations. And then later on with the CIP, we'll talk about the new account that we funded at the last Board of Finance meeting, and that's for our structural repairs and replacement, where we'll look at federal funding, state funding, local funding for, again, structural interim repairs, replacements, and hopefully I've distinguished the difference between the two accounts.
You have. Thank you.
Any other questions from members?
Tim, it's Mike, just sorry, one last question. And I know this one's probably not easy, given when you guys are putting the budgets together, but we do have that projected actual column for the current fiscal year, and this isn't unique to the highway department. Many of the departments just seem to kind of that number is the same as whatever the budget number was. And again, I can appreciate at the time this is being done, it's probably hard to project what full year's spending is going to be, but the highway department's obviously one of the larger departments, and and that projected actual is the same as the budget. So I'm just trying to get a handle on now, are some of these rows, are those actuals maybe coming in a bit differently than what was anticipated maybe a few months back, and therefore I'm looking, for instance, at line 51 or 52, snow removal labor, materials, 130,000, 145,000. You're showing they're flat year over year, but are they really not necessarily flat because you're only going to spend at this point maybe 110,000 on labor or 120,000 on materials? Are we potentially seeing growth in some of these lines just because we're carrying over the actual budget?
Okay, so in snow removal labor, as of this pay period that just closed, I am predicting that we are going to be we're going to overspend by $9,000. So $9,000 in the red.
Okay.
And we track everything extremely closely and review the budgets very closely. In materials, we predict that we could be about 20,000 in excess. And so right now we're looking at snow removal, the total line item to be currently have about $10,000 to $15,000 remaining. So we're crossing our fingers that we don't get any more weather events and that the police don't call us anymore. The police call us, we go. They've called us 22 times. And so when they call us, we go. They started calling us in early December. And I think the last time we were out for them was it 22nd? Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, so it sounds like you might be.
Called us was February 23rd. We are close to zero on tree removal and tree pruning, and I was planning on coming back next March, April, to you and kind of reporting on where we were with our budget and our line items. When we're over, we start looking at the other line items to see if we can balance it out, and we try and stop spending in certain things. We won't repair something if it's not completely broken, although it might not be the best idea to leave it as is. We might end up getting to the point where we'll try and save money in fleet repair and let trucks sit there and wait to repair them in July of this year so that we can save some money to pay for tree removal. And that's what we do on a regular basis to try and stay within budget.
Okay, thanks. So it sounds like the materials row might be the one where might be a little bit favorability. The others are close to being on target or slightly over gathering.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And
We're
Mike,
not using those accounts basically to give us money for line item transfers in other accounts, right? I mean, these really are, what you would forecast you would need, right?
Do
you understand what I'm asking?
No, sorry.
On average, Tom, on a long-term average, I think what we do is try to forecast it over a 10-year average of what what's been expended, and what's been forecasted as far as what we think it's gonna be. So those two numbers there are, I think, an average over 10 years.
Mike, if I may, this is Jim Sullivan.
Yeah,
Uh,
please,
you-
Jim.
You must have been a fly on the wall this morning because we had a department head meeting and I was talking about finance and what I'm working on. One of the topics that came up was the projected actual budget and the thought people are putting into that. I implored everyone over the next 2 weeks, every department head, to actually put some serious thought into what that is. You know, that was something that was added, that column was added a year or two ago by the Board of Finance because they thought it would be a very useful tool. And it hasn't been, I'll just say, thought that hard about by departments head. They're just defaulting to their usual budget. So by the time we get to deliberations, I hope to have a refreshed copy of the budget in front of you that more accurately reflects what the current might be for all departments.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, Jim. Thank you. Yeah, that'd be very, very helpful. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, Barbara, just to make sure that we're not building off a base that's artificially elevated.
Any other questions from members? Nope. All right, you guys want to move to SIP?
Do you want to, could we just do engineering and facilities operations and then move to SIP? Or
Sure. Did I miss a page? Sorry. Oh, I did. My apologies. I missed that page. Sorry. Yeah, let's go to engineering and facilities. Sorry. My apologies.
Good evening, Chris Greenlaw, Town Engineer. In review of my first 6 months here, I would like to first outline the highlights of the present year operations for you. And the Willow Street Drainage Project has successfully ascertained both DEP and local inland wetland approvals. This project documents are being prepared for bidding with construction anticipated for the summer months. This will be advertised hopefully by the end of the month. The townwide bridge inventory was conducted, necessary to identify and categorize the number, size, type, and condition of the town's bridge assets. This inventory is an important first step in planning of the future bridge repairs and or replacements accordingly. An evaluation of this inventory will be a guide to determine which bridges undergo further testing and load rating. The West Broad Street School project entailed renovations to include masonry repairs, repointing, joint sealing, windows. This has been completed. The Town Hall HVAC, the mechanical ventilation project, this has been advertised, and there was a pre-bid walkthrough actually this evening. And if you remember, we identified deficiencies in this building, and I believe we approached the Board of Finance in the fall, maybe November, and you allocated funds, so we've actioned those funds as design and project documents. And you should be happy to know that that's advertised, and we hope to have a bid opening mid-March. And lastly, the MS4 permit keeps us busy as we manage various ongoing stormwater initiatives required to maintain compliance with town's general permit for its municipal stormwater collection and conveyance system. Those are some of the things that have been keeping us busy in engineering as far as our operations. Probably of interest to you is the major budget changes and commentary. The first reduction outlined you'll see would be the engineering department shows a decrease of $14,000 to the floodplain manager line. This is in accordance with the SPA contractual language and core FEMA regulations, and it's now being managed by planning and building, and I believe they may have presented to you on that. The other reduction that goes along with that is the engineering department shows a decrease of $3,600 to the FEMA Community Rating System Requirements line in accordance with the SPA contractual language and core FEMA regulations, also being managed now by planning and building that I believe they've reported to you. The increases to the budget, the engineering department shows an increase of $6,300. This is for a part-time engineer line, as this function will fund a seasonal position or engineering intern to assist with the main administrative tasks associated with MS4. And just to highlight that for a moment, just a few thoughts. Ideally, what we were thinking was a college intern with an engineering background or an environmental concentration. The primary tasks of this part-time intern would include assistance with the DEP MS4 stormwater permit process. Specifically, they would work with staff and the consultant as we develop DCIA and LID regulations, which would be incorporated into our zoning regs that are also hopefully going to be done concurrent. This would also include the assistance with green and blue stormwater BMPs to both protect and enhance our groundwater infiltration and runoff. So as we ramp up with proposed regulation to support the stormwater permit, the administrative time and tasks are going to increase significantly. So we thought it would be a win-win perhaps if we had the opportunity of a part-time engineering intern as we're proposing. So I just wanted to digress on that a little bit where we were coming from with that. The other increase proposed in the engineering department is for $1,950 to the furniture and equipment line, as this will function to fund a department laptop to assist with remote access for meetings or in the field, and hopefully that computer would also support engineering software and GIS. And I believe I've covered the major budget changes. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, a question. The term of employment for your engineering intern, are we talking 2 months, June and July?
Approximately, I believe we are looking at 12 weeks at 35 hours. So this would fit within the kind of a semester schedule of a junior in an engineering program.
So we're talking May, June, and July then?
Yes.
Other questions from members? No? All right, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so I will go over the facilities management changes in the budget. And so electricity has been increased due to increases in the electric rate. And I can tell you right now, what we're showing for this year's electrical in our current budget is that it shows that we are at 55%. However, we have not been billed out for a period. And so although it looks as though we are lower than it's projected, we are not, because we have not been billed out for that amount yet. So water in town hall has been increased to support future needs for the community garden. Water for the police has been increased to support the grounds maintenance. So I pay the water bill for watering the grass in front of the police station. And I can tell you I'm actually already in the negative for that this year. So water is increasing for human services, and I'm high right now on that water use also. And I suspect we had a dry year, and that was to support their community garden. One of the things that we're doing actually this year is that we're going to install meters to separate the water supplies so that we can get a reduction on our sewer bill for the water use. General maintenance highway garage, we've increased that. We'd like to address deferred maintenance on the aging structure. DPW facility preservation and maintenance program is being generated to address future work over the next 5 years. We have a lot of large doors garage doors, roofs that are failing and things like that that need to be addressed, and we'd like to slowly be able to do so. General maintenance of the Forest District Hall, increase required to support addressing deferred maintenance of the building, especially the building exterior or rotted and require replacement. So that building is so rotted that we've actually had fascia just start falling off the building. And so if you go over there now, you'll see that it's basically a temporary measure has been put in place. General maintenance, deep compliance. We have required support has increased due to state requirements for permitting and plans required for facility operations. Over the last 5 years, the state has visited the town facilities 2 times to review our activities, our facilities, and reports to ensure they're in compliance. And so some of the things that we have to report to, prepare plans for, have permits, for example, just at the town garage requires the following: stormwater pollution prevention plan, spill prevention, compliance with Connecticut Deep General Permit, industrial users, emergency planning, and community rating. Underground storage is in another fund, but these are, besides our day-to-day work, these are all other things that we have to do as far as in-house inspections, reporting, compliance, and making sure that we're ready for inspections. General maintenance, town dock has been increased. It's required to address additional annual federal and Coast Guard requirements for the facility operation of the underground storage tank. Until we replace the storage tank, the underground storage tank, the Coast Guard was unaware that we actually had a storage tank there, and so we were not actually complying and submitting plans and getting permits and approvals from them to operate. And since we've replaced the tank, they've become aware that it's there, and so now there are new requirements for operation of that facility. And general maintenance, former West Broad Street School / St. Michael's. We've listed in annual maintenance and repair for the heating system, repair of portions of the building roof structures, gutters, and downspouts. So we are also requesting a new half-time building maintainer position. So we would make our current half-time person a full-time. This person would, with COVID, we were hoping, prior to COVID, we were hoping that this half-time person could cover when our other full-time person was out. What we experienced this year is our full-time employee actually ended up going out for 6 weeks. And our half-time person plus COVID was not able to cover. And so having 2 full-time people would allow us to then cover vacations, sick days, maintain the human services building, and also go out and help them clean the restroom facilities in the recreational area, the Spellman area. This would be an increase of $30,086. So, and that is all that I had.
Questions from members?
I have one question. It's not SIP related specifically, Barbara, but my recollection is that last budget year, you kind of walked us through some of the work. I forgot whether it was that you were either taking it over or giving it back to the Board of Education. You were going to be either giving up or getting something from them. I've forgotten exactly what the specific thing was, but it was, we covered that. And as a result of that, my question is, what do you do, if anything, around those facilities and the parks and that sort of thing? What do you own? Where's the line, and how's that managed?
Okay, at the high school, the town of Stonington, the Department of Public Works does all work except for the baseball field, the artificial turf field, and we do not cut the front of the high school. So we do everything else. We take care, we clean the tennis courts, we do all the grass cutting and all the rest of the areas. We maintain the softball field. We maintain 3 other large athletic fields. We maintain, there's 2 pavilions back there. We maintain the pavilions. We cut the areas all around the pavilions. We do all the trash collection. I can go on and on. We maintain the pond that's there next to the fields. If you're familiar with the pond, we actually use that pond by the fields for our irrigation. I could spend an hour talking about everything that we do. We have an entire log if you're interested in it. At Mystic, I guess at Stonington Middle School, we maintain the entire property. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so we maintain everything around Stonington Middle School. At the Board of Ed building, we maintain everything.
Yes.
So we maintain everything around the Board of Ed's current building, and including a field that's there. What else? The only thing, I guess you could say, the only thing we don't maintain is the West Vine Street School landscaping, and field. Anything that's green outside of the building, we don't maintain. And the Dean's Mill School, anything that's green, we don't maintain. Those are the only schools that we have no association with as far as vegetation. We do plow those schools. Is that?
Barbara, is that a typical situation?
We maintain every park. We maintain every green space that says Town of Stonington, we maintain.
Lynn, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Barbara, is it a sort of a common occurrence, or, the way it usually works in other towns, that the town side DPW maintains school facilities, school grounds?
Well, actually, most other towns have a Parks and Rec department, and they maintain Parks and Rec, and then the school has their, Tom, what do you think? The school typically maintains their own properties?
Right, I think the school would typically maintain their own properties, and it may be something like we have here, where there's a line of delineation that we talked about in years past, where the pedestrian walkways around the school, they take care of only those little small areas. And because the Parks and Recs department usually has all the equipment and more personnel, they would come and take care of the heavy acreages of the grass being mowed and the heavy maintenance where bigger machines are required, more manpower.
Yeah. In 2000, I think it's 2012, an MOU was signed between the town and the school. And when that MOU was signed, the town was given, DPW was given responsibility for maintaining all the athletic fields. We had no participation in athletic field maintenance in any way. And then that MOU was signed. They gave us the budget that you see. We weren't given any additional staff or any additional equipment. When I came here, we were actually hiring out field maintenance, and we were spending a lot of money because it's a very specialized service. And so for the same, we were spending a lot of money and getting, an average job from these contractors. Plus, we were having contractors on school grounds or near schools during the school day, which was, very, very bad. And so since I've been here, we've converted it over. We've used our in-house staff, and we have extraordinary fields now that we've reduced our pesticide use, and we've got a team out there that work very hard. And I can't say. They're the best team, and they care. And so I'll stop talking.
Well, yeah, I wasn't criticizing it. What I was actually going to ask you is, call it Parks and Rec, call it the school board, whatever you want to call it. I'm curious about how someday when you have nothing to do, which snowball in hell, but I'd like to know like how much of your budget actually goes towards more than normal DPW to, does.
Well, if you look at, I don't know if, I had given this in advance. I could put it up on the screen. It's, I think it was given to you a week ago. It's the Stonington Highway Operations Activity Report.
Yeah.
And so athletic fields, last year we spent, and this is 2020, this is not the budget year, but in 2020, we spent 2,668 hours. And so that was 9.7% of our time. And that was $127,353.
Okay.
That's just labor.
Yeah. But it's probably double that if you include supplies.
So yeah, we have a separate line item for equipment. So field maintenance. So in addition, we get what did we get this year? We got $123,800 in for fertilizer. Actually, seasonal help was $41,800. Equipment, maintenance, and field work. So most of that money that is spent there is spent in-house for supplies. We contract out very little now. We can do all of our own irrigation repair in-house. The only time we contract out is when we have something like electrical work. Say we've had a pump fail. We'll go get the pump. We'll go get it prepped, and then we'll hire someone to just come and do the minimal work that we're not actually, licensed and skilled to do. And so we run the whole Parks and Rec, the whole athletic field part of this very economically. But yeah, so if you look at it, as much as our budget is for supplies, is basically equal to what we spend for labor to maintain the fields. And that's a loss of labor on maintaining the roads and everything else that the town DPW is responsible for.
Yeah, I was curious because I was looking at Groton's budget. They got a pretty good sized number for Parks and Rec, and you guys are basically doing that.
Yeah, we cut all the playgrounds. We cut the open space next to the wastewater treatment plant in the borough. We cut the grass in the borough where the farmers market is.
Yeah.
Leaf collection on all of our town facilities. So that's us. That's why, my presentation could have gone on forever about what we do. So somebody needs a temporary, one of those little libraries installed, the ones that are on this edge of the road.
Yep.
Install it for them.
Other questions from board members?
Mike, are we going to
go ahead?
spend a little bit of time on pavement?
I was going to wait to go into CIP.
Okay, all right.
That's a perfect segue, Mike. Let's go into CIP.
Okay. Big numbers we got to talk about there, right?
All right. Okay. So our first item is drainage improvements. Last year we had, we were given $1. We requested more than $1. So this line item is basically it's for new drainage that needs to be added for flooding issues, places. We have many places where there's no drainage infrastructure and flooding. And so we look at this and we use this money to put in new drainage systems. Possibly, now we're actually even looking into natural infiltration systems. We ran into an issue recently. What road was that in the sixth with the development where they have the flooding? Yeah.
Coastal Wealth Management, 56 Williams.
So on William Street, we're the coastal management.
Yeah.
There's a location there where a property has been developed, and then the inn next door to it has a lot of surface. And what's happening now is we have flooding in the roadway, and we're looking at possibly needing to put in some underground infiltration system under the roadway to collect that drainage, because there's no drainage system on that road, and there's no drainage on the state road. And so this is what this fund would go to. It would go to extraordinary drainage measures to solve flooding solutions, beyond just catch basin repair. So, does that make sense?
Is there a project list, a defined project list that these are gonna go for?
So at this point, no. This has been a fund that's just been accumulated and utilized, and at this point, there's no funding remaining in this account.
So basically it's 50 because you're capturing what we didn't give you from last year too, right? So it's really for 2 years.
Exactly. They're kind of, small drainage projects that come up that need immediate response. And this fund is money that allows us to go in and hire a contractor to do some sort of measure. Another thing that this might be used for is if we're doing drainage repair and the drainage is a certain depth. Is it 5 feet for the confined space?
5 feet.
So if a catch basin or drainage lines are greater than 5 feet deep, it's considered confined space. And my team doesn't have the training to work in confined space. And so there's some instances in the town right of way when we need to call a contractor in and do certain drainage repair because we don't have the equipment, we don't have the storing boxes, we don't have exactly what's needed. And so for the safety of the employees and the public, we'll have someone come in and utilize that funding to be able to address those situations. So this money is used on a case-by-case basis to kind of resolve issues that are needed very quickly.
So I got one more question though, because for example, the construction of that building, Coastal Wealth Management or whatever it was, that's the cause, correct, for the drainage issue now?
Well,
So
so what they required them to do on that project, and this was reviewed by the prior town engineer, but what planning requires them to do is to mitigate their on-site drainage.
Right.
And so that development, that property didn't cause the flooding. They are collecting and they are controlling all of their water. What's happening is that there are so many solid surfaces over in the inn that the inn water is flowing off of their pavement, going across our road, and now it's actually going into other property owners' homes, properties, and causing issues to adjacent property owners as a result of their water not being able to flow and into the property that was just developed.
Yeah, because it used to percolate in that raw land that was there, right?
Exactly. And so what we're looking at, and then actually environmentally, it's been, if you've been up to Wakefield, Rhode Island recently and driven down, they have a new streetscape there. There's ways to actually do retention systems underground where they naturally percolate. And so, we want to start looking at doing those types of things and doing some natural drainage where we allow we're able to collect it and have it naturally go and disperse in the ground.
That also supports the CIA under MSY.
So,
We're not going to be doing that for $50,000.
well, actually, there's a possibility that we would be able to, we'd look at it with Chris, the town engineer. We'd look at what highway is capable of doing. Highways, it's really looking at the specialized materials that we would need to buy.
It's basically a leaching field, right? Like a septic system.
Exactly. And so, in some cases, this funding could be used to buy the specialized, the specialized materials that would allow us to address the flooding problems that are extraordinary, that we, beyond just repairing existing catch basins.
Okay.
So the next CIP project is highway equipment. And this year we're asking for the replacement of a 6-wheel dump truck, a loader, and a chipper. So we want Tom Curioso is here and can give you some explanation. You want further explanation on the equipment?
Could you break them down for us?
Sure.
Yeah, Tom, why don't you, we used to get that spreadsheet, so Tom, if you can kind of give the numbers, ages, and what you're looking at.
Sure, glad to.
And priorities, please.
Okay. Well, if I go with our top priority, it's going to be the payloader that we want to get. So the one we currently have is a 1999 John Deere, 22 years old, has approximately 8,500 hours on it. And the price we have right now is at $230,000. The breakdown on that. The loader is something we use all the time. Obviously, we load salt with it for the trucks. This loader, we'd like to get a load right type scale system on it, which would allow us to weigh the loads as they go out of the garage, and we keep track of that a little bit better than we are. Know how much the amounts of salt are leaving, and so we're not overloading the trucks. It's about a $10,000 upgrade on the loader. I think it would probably save damages to the trucks of all of that, and certainly over the lifetime of the loader. The second thing, if the second ask would be the large truck. I know for the last few years we haven't gotten a large truck, so the one we are is a 2003 International with 112,000 miles. Replacement cost is $198,000 on that unit. And the third item we're asking for is a wood chipper, which on a day like today is a very useful tool. We had to go out and pick up limbs on the side of the road and trees and chip them on there right on site. And the cost of that is $46,000. That's currently a 1995 unit. I hate to be a sacrificial person right up front, but I think we could limp the chipper along. It is old, but it's not something we use every day. But it was due for replacement in the sheet.
I guess, and we did do some research too. So we were called in as far as breakdowns during snow events and how the equipment is impacting us, the age of the equipment. So we've had 22 call-ins. During the call-ins, we've had 30 breakdowns. And a breakdown would mean that the truck was no longer able to be used to be plowed, pulled the driver off of his plow route back to the garage for repair. It either was repaired or put out of service. And then during each of those 22 call-ins, we had over that period we had 11 trucks. There were 11 instances where we had a truck down before the storm even started. And so we were already short a truck 11 times before a storm started. And so that gives you an idea. And you can see, as I go down in the sheet on 2/19, we started out with 2 trucks down and 8 breakdowns. And then on the last event that we had on 2/23, we had 2 trucks down and 3 breakdowns. And it's interesting, I put together the spreadsheet, and you can see that as the winter progresses, we increase in breakdowns and we increase in trucks down. So.
I've got, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Len.
So are they the same kinds of breakdowns where preventative maintenance would solve that problem?
That was a question I was gonna ask.
Highly unpredictable in there. Sometimes it's the plow, the apparatus of the plows. The preventive maintenance we're doing is, we have that scheduled accurately, I think, and it's been working out pretty well. It's just some of the age of the trucks and the age of some of these breakdowns of the equipment as well. Because we use the equipment to plow. This board would have a snow plow on it, we can use it like a large truck as needed, especially if it's a big event where we have 10 inches, 12 inches of snow. So I couldn't say that it was preventive maintenance causing the problem. That they just seem to be, a lot of them are random breakdowns, and when the snow plowing happens, honestly, it's very unpredictable.
So that's a good segue into the following fiscal years where we're looking for a lot of dough. So is the fleet, pretty $415,000.
You're breaking up a little bit there.
What's that?
Is the fleet aged?
Well, I'm wondering, I'm going out a couple of fiscals there, right? It's $415,000 asks in all the subsequent years. So what is that telegraphing?
Well, so what I did a few years ago is I looked over a 20-year period of what it would cost to maintain our fleet and replace it within the recommended life of the equipment. And
right.
then I totaled that up. I divided it by 20, and I came out with $415,000.
Okay.
And so what I'm proposing is, well, I mean, we have far more. I would say the first 5 years that we need to replace, but my recommendation is we make some sort of a commitment of about $415,000. And we will use that, and I think when I did this analysis, it was over a period of 5 or 6 years, that we would eventually catch up with replacing things in a timely manner, and then be able to, be on schedule with replacements. There are some years where we say we need to replace 3 trucks, but there come a point where that 415 would go into an account. And then 1 year we might spend 100,000, but that funding would be sitting there so that the next year when we had to spend 700, we had the 700 there. So it was just so the 415 that I show you is really a planning mechanism.
Yep. Okay. So it wasn't contemplating new equipment; it's replacement of existing stuff we need.
Complete replacement of existing equipment.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
I have one more question. On the front loader, the 1999 front loader, if you got the new one, are you going to trade that in against, or are you going to have 2?
We would trade it in. We currently have 2 front end loaders. We have a 99 and a 2003, both John Deere loaders, same size, very similar machines. We use both loaders sometimes even during the storms. We have the loaders out. One's obviously loading the soil, the other one's out running on the road. And we use them for all general work, catch basins, drainage repairs, tree removals. So the short answer is yes, we would be trading the 99 in. As far as the value on the loader, had a couple of estimates from different people coming down somewhere around 10,000, 15,000. It's a pre-emissions machine, so it has some value as probably working in a pit or working off site someplace. It has some life left to it, but as these things get up to the hours, 10,000 hours is usually about the ceiling, and then the value goes down to less than 10% of the machine.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for equipment?
Nope.
I have a question on line 27.
Let's keep going, Barbara.
Okay, so roadway safety, this is guide rail system replacement, and this has been an existing CIP. It was in existence before I came. It's an account where we accumulate funds to replace guardrails that are no longer code compliant, or utilize it to install guardrails, where code actually requires them to be placed. We have a list of, guide rails that need to be addressed. It hasn't been funded, over the past couple of years, I'll tell you, because we just haven't had time to address it. We have used some of that funding to upgrade some guide rails around, but it's low right now, and so we would actually like to start being proactive and get out there and take care of these issues throughout the town. It's a safety issue. So we don't install them ourselves. It's contracted out. It's a specialized contractor, and we usually come every year to you and get a bid waiver through the CROG bid. Are there any questions on that?
Yeah, Barbara, I got one. Is anybody mandating we get code compliant for that stuff?
No.
Okay, thanks.
I see no previous, but it's listed as an A. That seems to be an error on 27.
Well, Glenn, this is Jim. That's it regularly, has been, again, since I've been here, a regularly scheduled item that's always been funded as sort of a program. Just in the last 2 years, the money's been yanked from that line item at the last minute. But it's been part of a long-standing, quote unquote, plan to fund roadway safety. That's why it's an A.
So we utilized some of that money in the past to replace some guide rails on Wheeler Road. We did the painting out there, and so that's how it's really used to replace existing locations that have failed. There's a lot of places that have guide rails that are basically on the ground, where when we're coming in and we're doing paving, we go in and replace them. There's some locations where the guide rails are wooden posts, which are completely, it's not even that they're not compliant, it's almost like they're non-existent. When you drive down a lot of roads, you'll see posts in the road with reflectors, and that's not a guide rail. So.
All right, let's keep going, Barbara.
Okay. So the next two are road pavement, major maintenance, and road pavement capital. So road pavement, major maintenance is treatments that will extend a road life up to 8 years, and road pavement capital are treatments that will extend it, past 8 years, typically 10 years plus, and go to the point of complete reconstruction. An example of a road that was paved out of the capital improvement line item is Asher Avenue. We actually did a full reclamation of that road, and it almost rebuilt that whole section of the road because of the condition that it was in. As part of that project too, we also went and replaced all the drainage in there. That was some of the pictures that you saw. So last year, I think I have this in my commentary. This was significantly underfunded last year. As part of my pavement management program, it shows that to maintain the current road condition rating, we should be spending $1.2 million. I am given through the state, through the town aid road program, approximately $300,000. And so I am requesting the $900,000 combined between the two projects to meet the $1.2 million for pavement management.
Hey, Barbara, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I didn't follow that.
Okay.
No,
so we have two line items. We have one line item for major maintenance paving.
Yeah. No, but I'm talking about the state, what the state's going to contribute or not.
Okay, so if you look actually on page 55 in my commentary,
Yeah,
then line item 4, then
yeah,
it shows, so we have pavement major maintenance, we have pavement, road pavement capital, and then we have town aid road. I have it all listed there.
yeah, I saw that.
And
Okay.
so the year, so we get, it's actually $295,000 or somewhere around that from the state every year for road maintenance.
Right,
So my pavement management program tells us that we need to spend $1.2 million in road improvements, road pavement management to maintain our existing road condition.
okay, so, and it's a lot higher this year because last year we shifted it because,
Yeah, last year I was given $295,000.
right, okay. So basically you're using this year to get back on track. Or are you getting back on track this year, or is that, because again, it goes further out like it's every year. So we just,
It would be every year.
yeah,
We need to spend $1.2 million to maintain our road system.
which was like rated at a C+ or something?
Yeah, it's currently rated at a 77.
Okay.
Do you have a priority of project list of stretches of road, what's gonna be done for the coming fiscal?
I do. I actually have a 5-year plan that I had to completely redo. And I redid that. I could bring it up on the screen if you were interested in seeing it. Or I could provide you a copy later. But
Why don't you email a copy to Jim, who can circulate it to the rest of us,
Okay.
so we can look at it after.
I have a 5-year plan that shows every road that we're proposing to do. It shows what treatment, it shows a segment of the road, and it shows the cost associated with that. And so if I'm given the funding that's required, I have a plan of exactly, I think top of my list is West Vine Street. And the plan is based on the cost benefit value of addressing that road. It looks at the condition of the road, it looks at the treatment that's needed, it looks at the location of the road, the use of the road, and it gives me a recommendation. I then take those and I try and group road projects together to maximize the work in one area and minimize any mobilization and extra fees. So, and I will provide you a copy of that report.
Thank you.
Hi, Barbara, it's Mike. On the pavement topic here, there was something in your commentary that caught my attention. I think it's worth discussing for a moment. You said that due to COVID, this is on page 53, due to COVID cuts, minimal funding was provided for pavement management. Therefore, during the 2021 construction season, pavement repair will be limited. Most work will consist of preparation for pavement maintenance in 2022. So if I'm reading that correctly, it sounds like you're indicating that you can't do much this spring and into the summer because of the limited funding from last year's budget cycle. So I guess what I'm wondering is, we potentially have favorability, elsewhere, or we do have an undesignated fund balance where we could take a closer look. But it would seem to be a shame to me that we're not going to do work this spring and summer and just prep for next spring of 2022, because we didn't have sufficient funding through the last budget cycle. So am I interpreting that correctly? And if so, is there a discussion that we should be having about trying to get you something so you guys can actually do some more work this spring and summer?
You are interpreting that accurately. And so what happens is the year before, when I'm only given 295, I have funds from prior years. So I'm given my money in July, and then when I'm given my money in July, it's difficult for me to initiate work until fall or the spring following that. So say if you give me the money July of 2020, or when I got very little money in July 2020. I get the best price when I start my paving in the spring, because most people haven't planned their work out and they're trying to get the contractors in late in the year. And so when I get money in July, the best thing for me to do is plan in the fall and then do the paving in the spring. Hit the paving hard in the spring, which is actually what I did this year. We had a lot of paving that went on early in the spring. We were out there in April and we paved, I think, until late June. We got a lot of paving done this year. And so we expended our money from the previous fiscal year. So now I'm in the current fiscal year where it gave me $295. And so I'm in the situation where we just didn't have the funding in place that for me to be able to set up and be ready in the spring for paving. So I might be able to do a road or two with what I've got going, but I won't be able to hit it as hard as I did the year before. And I'm sorry, I wasn't aware. I thought because of COVID and the fiscal issues of the town, that I guess it was short-sighted of me. I never imagined coming back and asking you for more funding.
Yeah, I mean, Jim could certainly comment more precisely than I can, but collections have been better than perhaps we anticipated, and we did set aside a COVID fund, as well. So I guess what I'm getting at is rather than, I know you're asking for 900K for next year's budget, but maybe we can get you that phased differently. So maybe there's an opportunity to come to us sooner, and so you can get some of the work done going sooner, and it sounds like at more favorable rates. So maybe there's a way to get an additional appropriation in the current fiscal year. Maybe there's a 100,000, 200,000 we can do now, and then perhaps you don't need the full 900 next year. I mean, maybe there's a way to balance it a little bit as well. I don't know. It's just food for thought. That seems like that would be a more in a steadier way and more economical way to perhaps come at it.
Okay. I'll look at this.
Could you do that logistically, or is it too late to line up paving?
Well, it's not too late. It's having roads ready, and so I have to look. We might be able to do some maintenance surface treatments, but I have to go. We can't go and do mill and overlay until they're ADA accessible, until all the drainage has been inspected, and since we didn't have. Since I didn't see that we had the funding available, I was really planning on starting that work this spring. So, but it's still, I'm sure we could get a little. I'd have to take a look at it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Director McCrell, what are the worst 3 streets in town in priority? The worst 3, 1, 2, 3, what are they? Do you have that information? And the cost associated with doing each? Sort of follows with Member Faubeck's.
Maybe that could be emailed tomorrow.
That could be looked quick, because we'll be back here, same time, same station.
Yeah,
Get that for me tomorrow, if you could.
Yeah, maybe Barbara and Tom, when you're putting together the 5-year list, if you could prioritize what currently is looking at top 3 in cost.
Well,
that'd be great. I'd rather get it, Barbara. I'd rather get it in writing so that it's easier. I'm not trying to transcribe what you're telling me.
Yeah.
So it'd be easier if you could just tomorrow send it out, or as soon as easily possible, assuming nothing huge happens overnight with the winds.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Barbara, I have a quick question. The pavement management forecast model, how long has that just been this year, or have you been using that for a while?
We've been using it for actually since 2016.
Okay.
That's right. It's right here, 2016.
Okay. Because I just was wondering, to go to $11 million in repairs, I'm just was wondering if that was a new model we were using or what that was. So thank you.
No. And actually, it's, until we did that investigation in 2016, when I started, we were spending a couple $100,000 a year maintaining our roadways. And so it wasn't known that this much was needed to maintain our roads until we did that evaluation. And the numbers that we have are very similar to what Ledger's spending on their roadways, or what Ledger is asking for. And so you know, we're in the ballpark with other communities. So.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so the next one is DPW radio, which I'm going to let Tom speak to.
This is to update and upgrade our radios. We brought this forth last year and tried to get it all at one time. So what we decided to do is we carried over 6,000, and we're trying to break up into 2 more years, 41,000 and 41,000 in the following year, to upgrade the radios to digital. We're still having a lot of difficulty communication-wise. I was in for a storm during the month of February, driving down Lantern Hill Road, and I couldn't speak to anyone who was south of 184. So we go back to what we have to do is use cell phones, and we don't provide a cell phone for every employee, so they're using their personal cell phones. And if we were to lose cell service, we would really be kind of luck. So we know it's an ask that wasn't funded last year. We're still trying to do it, but we're trying to break the cost down over the next couple of years. And the price is kind of stable right now. Communications Plus to get us a quote, and that stays basically the same. But there might be a slight increase coming up in the following year, but cross that probably in SIP for next year. But that's basically the problem, and that's our solution for it.
Tom, is that a radio for every guy or a radio for every truck?
It's a radio for every truck.
God, they're expensive.
They are. They are. You know, it'll also have these 2-way radios in the equipment that goes over the road. So there would be one in the loaders, one in the John Deere backhoe. So if there's an employee out there, an equipment operator working in a storm, we can reach him, or he can reach us. Or if there's an emergency, they can reach us, or they can reach the PD.
Yeah, so that's the same radio as the PD has, right?
Correct.
But then that also begs the question, is there a lot of IT involved? Because that seems to be a large component of the later lift.
Well, I think the way it works is, I don't know if anybody remembers the conversation from last year, but we would become another user group along with the police department. And I don't want to use the term piggyback, but the user group is with them. So right now they monitor our radio transmissions analog wise. This would allow us all to talk back and forth together, all on the same digital network.
How many trucks, John?
I think the total amount of radios is 35, which includes all the trucks, all the equipment, everyone that we have.
And how many guys have we got that would be, maybe it's easier to arm the guy?
Possibly. The only thing I would say about that is I inquired about this Communications Plus. They claim that the portable radio that we would be utilizing would not have the transmission power to the tower to get to the fiber optic network, as well as a hard surface mounted one in the truck. So like in a storm, we have 19 full-time employees. So in the storm, we have 18 guys plowing, and the foreman's out there as well. So you could look at it as a portable thing, get 19 radios that way. It would cut the cost down.
Well, yeah, unless they don't work.
Unless they don't work and we're in the same problem, right?
So let me ask another stupid question then, which is maybe we can get, the PD has the portable radios, right?
Yeah, they do have portable radios, and they also have, I know the chief has cell phone capability where he goes off his cell phone. And that technology is supposed to be available either coming to a price point. I think the price point was the problem. Like one of these cell phones is in the thousands that works. To
Well,
make
yeah,
everything.
where I was going with that is, you know, if, I'm sure they got spares, maybe we can test that theory about the handheld doesn't, you know, won't do the job we need it to do by borrowing one.
No, I understand. That's a good thought. We could try it and see how it works. And if it's something that works well enough, maybe we scrap the idea of putting them in the trucks, just go with the handhelds.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand the rationale that the truck is going to have more power, therefore it's going to work better and all that kind of thing. Because if you think back to an old cell phone, that, you know, when they were connected to the car, that was how it was. Then you got the portable ones and they weren't as good, but they're good enough. Right? So the question is, maybe they're good enough.
Right. The way I understand it, as long as we can get the signal to the tower, then it goes into the fiber optic from there and you're good to go. So
Right.
That's what you need to do, one way or another, if you want to use it, right?
Right. So, I mean, if we just kind of maybe think about borrowing one and as we're driving around testing it.
Sure. I'll contact either Todd Olson or Darren Stewart and ask them.
We have to borrow a couple.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
All right, and we can try it, and then if it works and we feel confident about that, then we can cut this cost right down.
Well, they probably also have some data they can share with you with respect to what they've, you know, figured out with their own officers.
Yes, agreed.
Because these things have to get replaced periodically. So if we don't need to make that expense, not only just now, but 5 years from now, and so on and so on, that would be good.
Okay.
Or if we could leverage purchasing volume.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one, in highway is, bridge replacement and structural improvement fund.
Did you do ADA rest?
Oh.
Yeah, we got ADA.
Sorry. So we've also requested funding and actually I didn't put this in here originally, but, I can't remember her name. The town administrator. Patty, sorry. So Patty had asked me to include this as a separate line item, as a separate project. And I've had it in here before, and it's basically a line item to fund, accessible ramps in the road right of way. And, like I've said before, we now need to replace these ramps before we do any paving in any location where we're doing, capital improvement level paving. And I have been taking the funding to do those ramps out of the paving work, out of the paving line item, paving CIP. And so she had asked, and it had been discussed, that we put this in a separate line item so that when we are doing the paving work, we can show separately that we are spending money for accessibility compliance. And so I guess I could offer it up that if we're going to break it out this way, you could possibly, you know, even though I need the $1.2 million, you could possibly reduce that, since I've been spending that paving money anyhow for accessibility compliance, and put $100,000 in a separate contract or a separate project. I'm sorry.
Can you remind us what goes into making the, what is it, the curb, the corner, or whatever when you get?
So the state has certain requirements. They have certain standard details, and unfortunately they change quite regularly, which results in a lot of our ramps being non-compliant. I don't have the report in front of me now, but I think like 75% of our ramps are currently non-compliant. So the ramp has to have a landing that's 4 feet by 4 feet at a certain grade level of, you know, like a 2%.
1.5% pitch can be on the detectable warning pad, they call it. So that if you roll down in a wheelchair or if you're walking with a attenuation aid, that you know that you're on that one spot. It's the only reason they keep that 1.5% on there is just so water will shut off it. Otherwise, they'd make it perfectly flat. And then there has to be certain grade sloped approaching both angles to it. Can't be more than 8.4% at each angle coming down to it. And then like Barbara was talking about, they have a different detail for every scenario. So if it's a rounded corner, if it's an increased radius corner, if it's a straight ramp, if it requires retaining wall to the back of it. So it gets quite involved. It's not just like one standard ramp that you could put in, or years ago when they put them in, they would just probably go to the 8.4% and just level it down to the road surface. They don't let you get away with it anymore.
Yeah, there's a minimal lip that you're allowed to have. We have a lot of locations within town that there's crosswalks but no ramps. And so all of these things need to be brought up to compliance.
Okay, but it's only where there's sidewalks, right?
Well, it's only where there's sidewalks or crosswalks. We do have locations where a path goes, there's a path that goes on a crosswalk, like at the, I haven't figured out what we're supposed to do here yet, but at the golf course, the Elm Ridge Golf Course, there's crosswalks that go across the road. And, and I think that we minimally need to put in a detector strip, so that if you're walking on that path and you come to the road, and right now we don't have that. It's just a path that goes into the road. And so, so there's nothing there to signal to somebody that you're walking into the street.
Except for the street.
Except for the street, yeah.
So if you have an intersection with four, you know what I mean, four corners or whatever on it, you got to do this 4 times?
It's only where there's a crosswalk. And so the police department make a determination of where we put crosswalks. And so, a lot of what we do is facilitating the directives of the police department and the traffic commission. And they're in charge of road safety. So when they make a determination that a crosswalk needs to be placed somewhere or a crosswalk must remain, then it's our responsibility. We repaint those lines on the road, and it's our responsibility to make sure those crosswalks are compliant with the current accessibility.
Even if the end of the ADA ramp dumps you into a, forest because there's no sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, if, any improvements that we do to our roads that are considered a capital improvement, anything greater, anything that's a mill and overlay or greater, we are required to improve the accessibility. So it's
without any nod to common sense, because if it's accessible to nowhere, it doesn't matter.
But it's only if there's an existing crosswalk or an existing ramp.
Well,
we're not putting in anything new.
No, I get that. I just don't understand why you would have a ramp with a crosswalk with no sidewalk.
Believe me, that's a lower priority for me, is addressing that. I just bring it up because I thought it was odd too.
Okay.
But like, for example, we did Mechanic Street. Before we did Mechanic Street in Pawcatuck, 2 years prior to that, we addressed all the crosswalks. We addressed all the ramps. Every ramp on Mechanic Street is currently compliant. And that's what goes into the road and gives us a complete road. We make the ramps compliant. We make the sidewalks compliant. We repair any drainage. And then on that road last year, we mill and overlaid it.
Yep. Now, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand the sense behind it.
Oh, I understand. Okay. So the next item, Chris will talk about, and that's the bridge replacement.
The Bridge Replacement and Structural Improvement Fund, the ask is for $100,000, and this is in support of our bridge preservation program. As you know, we've recently learned and reported that we have bridge assets totaling 17 structures, roughly 14 bridges at an asset value of $30 million. The Bridge Preservation Program is modeled after the roadway asset program. This account funding allows us to initiate both the design and construction of large structural repairs or replacement altogether. Full disclosure on this one, when we originally asked for the $100,000, this was before this current ask was for $100,000, but at the February Board of Finance meeting, the line transfer requests were granted, resulting in the allocation of $71,000 in funding. Therefore, it's at this time that we would request, you could actually reduce this by $29,000 because you've funded this account actually a couple of weeks, last month. And I just wanted to bring that to light. Looking forward, we would continue to request approximately $100,000 a year to fund this program. Are there any questions with this Bridge Replacement and Structural Improvement Fund? This is the CIP fund for large structural repairs. Earlier in the evening, we talked about the maintenance repairs that were non-structural. So I just want to differentiate. Now we're talking about the CIP funding account for large structural repairs.
So I got a question, Chris, which is, it's Lynn, which is, and my video's off because my battery will die if I don't turn it off. So what can we really do for structural work with $100,000, even if it's done every year?
Right.
I mean, aren't these things really bonding projects and so on?
Well, what we could do with $100,000 is we can perform analysis, load ratings. We can prepare replacement or repair strategies with cost estimates to bring to you. This would include categorizing, prioritizing improvements for maintenance under a long-term asset plan. So, again, this could be utilized as seed money to get those designs, get those analysis. If a bridge is at a state where we find through a load rating, for instance, like Lantern Hill, that we need to take some structural interim measure immediately, or it's going to be closed, that money can keep this, it's seed money to keep this program going. Once we start developing this asset management plan, we can get those design analysis, and we can prioritize, and we can come back to the Board of Finance with recommendations for replacement or structural interim repairs. So that money is important. As far as $100,000, it might be something that, as we learn more and as we develop our asset management plan, obviously $31 million worth of assets is a huge number. We're just embarking on this program, much like our roadway program. And most likely we're going to see numbers in the future to support the repair and maintenance and replacement of those bridges more in line with that roadway program.
All right, and I want to add, since I've been here, we've been saving, I think it's $30,000 a year for replacement of the artificial turf field. And we've been saving nothing for bridge replacement. And we've done the recent investigation of the bridges, and we've determined in the near future, we're going to have some significant bridge projects coming forward. We think it's prudent to start looking into that, getting some plans together, and putting an account together where we're better prepared, and that if we do have projects that are identified and we can get matching funds from state grants, that we'll be ready. And it won't be the hits that we had a few years ago where they're asking for $300,000. So we're basically, this is an account where we'd like to try and accumulate funding and then utilize some of the funding to make the best choices for maintaining our bridge infrastructure.
So then line 32 is really analysis and testing.
Right, I say analysis, testing, and
Structural.
and potential future repairs, large repair, or even replacement of bridge structures.
So again, in your massive amounts of free time, one thing I'd be interested to know, because I know this stuff is frightfully expensive when you have to fix it. So if we've got, falling down London bridges around town and whatnot, one thing I'd like to know is what, the potential costs that might have to be bonded for and, sort of when-ish kind of thing would be, because from a planning perspective, it's helpful to know, what we're doing as debt rolls off and so on. Maybe that's asking too much from, the information that you have, but, if you, for example, if you sat here and said, well, we're going to need $18 million by 2030 because two bridges are falling down or whatnot, that'd be useful information for us to have.
Okay. We can, we'll do our best to try and put something together.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it's not critical for this particular budget cycle, but one thing for me is we need to start planning and looking ahead and start, because we're always fixated on sort of a current moment in time. And there's some big ticket items out here lurking.
And that's, and that was our intent when we did the initial investigation of all the bridges.
Yep.
And, Chris and I were finally able to compile a list of all the bridges, map all the bridges out, have all the bridges inspected, get them rated. I mean, we were able to determine that one of the CIP projects, the Coogan Boulevard culvert, could be deferred.
Right.
And that wasn't really a priority now. And so he and I are here working to try and make the best decisions on ensuring that our infrastructure remains, usable, passable. I mean, if a bridge fails, it's even worse than a road failing, because you've got to close it. At least the road, you can patch the potholes.
No, I get it. So, but I also know that there's stuff lurking out here. So, and I know that there's other things that are going to be coming at us for large, what's going to amount to bonding requests. Okay. I beat that horse. Sorry.
And now we're going to go into engineering CIP.
Oh, yes.
And we're actually only asking for funding for a couple of projects.
Right. So the next line item is the Washington Street drainage improvements. This ask is for $18,000. The current status of this drainage project is at 90% design. The project goal is to reduce periodic flooding in this area. The additional funding will support the estimate for construction costs associated with the Washington Street drainage improvements. This work includes jetting of the drainage pipe under the Amtrak rail line and excavation of the tidal marsh area that has been filled with silt and vegetation. So the last current estimate for this project seems to be in excess of the monies that we have. Therefore, we're asking for those additional monies to prepare us to supplement the monies we have, so that when we go to bid, we hopefully have enough funds for those construction efforts. Any questions with Washington Street drainage improvement?
What are the unknowns to those costs? So this is a supplemental, you're saying, to for the best current estimates right now, but how confident are the estimates that you've got?
And again, we're at 90% design. There's still a few things that they need to work on, but the items that they have estimated, like with any of these engineers, they are trying to develop estimates based on similar projects, but we're not at 100% design, and the projected costs are greater than what they anticipate. So that's why we want to increase that at this time.
Any other questions from members? Nope. All right, next one, Chris.
Okay, Willow Street drainage site improvements. The ask for this is $25,000. This project, the project plans and documents are completed, and we are prepared to advertise this month as earlier reported. The additional funding for this option is for a bid alternate to provide bituminous parking. The impetus for the design originally was purely drainage. It was for a tidal valve to reduce flooding in the church in Willow Street area. That is the goal of the project, to reduce the flooding for that area in Mystic. It was asked of us to include, so while we were under design, we were also asked for an additional estimate to include parking. So what we did was we have a base bid for the drainage, and we've included a bid alternate for the parking that would be for the immediate area around the building to provide parking for ADA, signage, and whatnot, just for immediately around the building. So that's what this additional money is for. When we bid at the end of this month, if we find we don't have the monies, we could use those monies if they're allocated for a much larger endeavor as far as not only parking around the building, but I believe there's initiative by economic development or planning to look at parking on the whole site. So at this time, we were asked to include that. We have a mechanism to do that as part of our bid as a bid alternate. And we additionally requested those funds to facilitate that if the bids come in favorably.
Just so I'm clear, who asked that you include that?
It was planning and economic development.
It was,
Okay.
Keith collectively. Yeah.
Danielle's here taking ownership of it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from members? Okay.
So the next project is Town Hall HVAC improvements, and Chris is going to talk to that one.
So this ask is for $190,000 for Town Hall HVAC improvements. We had an analysis done of the building. That's where, not to confuse you, we discovered the second floor of the Town Hall did not have fresh air. You folks funded that. The second item, as far as a priority to Town Hall, was it's a phased request for improvements associated with the Town Hall for the replacement of the 30-year-old burner and boiler that's lived its full life. This project would include replacement of the 6 inline hot water heating pumps and a domestic hot water tank. All this equipment would be upgraded with higher efficiency and, of course, reliable units, including an automation or electronic control system. So I just want to emphasize that the report indicated, again, we have one unit. It's a single boiler and burner and boiler unit. It's reached the end, it's at the sunset portion of its life. If it does fail, we do not have heat for the building. So therefore, it is recommended that this item be next in the phasing of the improvements for the mechanicals for the Town Hall.
Chris, it's Lynn. If we spent the 190 in the following 3 years, there's another $423,000, or right? So what are we encumbering those funds now by spending the 190, or are these things all isolated and separate things?
Excellent question. So the analysis that we had done by a mechanical engineer is they went through the building and they went through the hierarchy of the items that needed to be replaced. So number one, most immediate, was the mechanical ventilation that you folks had funded, and we expedited a project. Number two was they assessed the boiler, it being the next item that should be replaced. Looking forward, they've listed the mechanicals throughout the building as far as we've now programmed, based on their assessment, HVAC systems, and it would be for the basement, and then the third floor, and then to have an automated system in the end that would choreograph, kind of a network to monitor the temperatures, the controls, the humidity indoors and outdoors. So it's a package that's been partitioned into 5 parts. Most immediately, we started with the project 1 for the mechanical air ventilation, and now before you tonight is their estimate for the boiler. And then, yes, looking forward, we would, as the years, these other items would march forth, but as per the recommendation of the report, the boiler and the pump assembly and the automation for that, and the hot water tank was the second item that we proposed for this year.
All right, so it's safe to say that if we were going to throw $613,000 at town hall, we're looking to stay in town hall. Danielle?
That's our understanding, but we just facilitate the maintenance of the building. We're getting to a point where systems are aging out, and we're required to make sure that they're heated and air conditioned. And I think in the short term, unless we take action quickly to start planning a new facility, we have to make these maintenance improvements.
Oh, I'm not denying that, but what I was really saying, so, if let's say we gave you the 190, you started the project, and next year, for whatever reason, we got jammed up and we couldn't go follow through with the 141, would that become, a different kind of problem? And I think Chris answered that.
Yeah.
They're sort of modular kinds of fixes, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
And so the next project is Human Services, HVAC replacement phase 2. And this is similar to what Chris described as town hall. So we replaced the boiler at the Human Services building, and now we have air handling units, air conditioning units that are reaching the end of their life. They also utilize R22 refrigerant and not the more efficient R410A. And so it'll get to a point where we won't be able to get the refrigerant, or we're going to have an issue with just maintaining an older system. And so we're making a recommendation to start phasing the repairs and replacement of these components in that building.
So,
if I could add just one thing, an important note that's going to be similar both to the town hall and with the Human Services building is that when you hear the word R22, that's the refrigerant in the air conditioning units, and that's been deemed harmful to the ozone, which isn't helping our climate situation. So 2020 of this year, they're going to stop manufacturing that, and the cost of R22 is going to increase dramatically. So your repair costs for these units are going to become more expensive. And at some point, the units themselves might last 5 years, but if the cost of repairs and the refrigerant are such, you're going to see the replacement of AC units coming before you, not just you, but everyone that's using the R22 for a refrigerant that is more environmentally friendly, just because by the mere fact that they're not going to manufacture the R22. So I pipe in on this because this is going to be part of a conversation when we come before you next year talking about the refrigerant for the AC units in the town hall. So that's kind of going to push forward the planned obsolescence of some of these AC systems. So I just wanted to reiterate for you because it's a movement nationwide as they stop manufacturing the R22.
We're just trying to think ahead, be proactive, and let you know what's coming up. It could be delayed a year, but we project that there's going to be higher maintenance costs, higher repair costs, and we're getting to the point where we're getting to the end of their life, and just kind of forewarning and making recommendations on what we think is the best approach.
Well, So what I'm thinking about, given where interest rates are and whatnot, is whether or not we're supposed to really take a deep dive into this and figure out if we're supposed to finance it. That's why I keep asking the questions I'm asking. That 45 grand that we spent, that was on a boiler, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, so it's like really like $150,000 or something for the AC part of that HVAC system, right?
Yeah. And the thing that's going to come up in town hall is that the middle floor in town hall is it's air conditioned using individual units that are what?
They're split units.
They're split units, and so each split unit has been put in at separate times. They have separate outside the condensers. So they have separate outside condensing units. Some condensing units are using the R22. Some do not use R22. It's very inefficient. It's just the way that the when I arrived here, if you look around and drive around the outside of the building, you'll see all many condenser units, and that really, if we were going to take the best active approach on this, it would be to put in one main condenser and tie all the units inside the building to one condenser, and that would improve the efficiency. We would get a longer service life with a new unit, and it would make the outside of the building much more attractive than having this this sprinkling of all of these condensers.
Yeah, but you're also going to need ductwork for that.
No, it's actually it's not ductwork. It's you can explain it.
Is it the high velocity tubing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it already exists.
Okay.
I built a new building recently, and we have all new split units outside. And there's a reason you use split units and a reason you use a single condenser, and you have risks associated with both. So I'm not sure I necessarily agree with, we'd be better off getting rid of all the split units personally. But that's a separate conversation. It's not on the table right now. So let's keep going with this discussion though.
All right. The next item was for the Pawcatuck Pump House fire suppression line abandonment. And what we're asking for is funding that will allow us to proceed with, to contract with a consultant to do the design for this project.
Wait a minute. Why can't we just put concrete in the end of the pipe?
I think this would be best to explain. I think Tom will explain this.
That's 150 grand to abandon a pipe?
So it's actually two pipes, and the inlets to there are fire suppression lines, and the inlets to these fire suppression lines are below the low tide line, and so they are always underwater, and they are original to the structure. So we have no plans that show us exactly how they are constructed underwater. So it's not. So I think the project seems very simple, but the difficulty is the depth. These pipes run under the dike wall. They don't really run through it. They run under it. And the pipes that are on the land side are we think have
weird. We're estimating they're like about 14 or 15 feet down. And like the complexity of the problem is the water side, obviously. So you need a way to coffer that area over and then expose the pipe down there. And then somehow either with flowable fill or flowable grout and seal both ends of the unit and keep it that way. That's the problem. The water side's the problem more than anything. It's not. I know it seems simple. If it's a 12-inch pipe, like you said, cap one end of this thing, fill it all the way up, comes back out the other side, cap that end, and it's over. But even when the Army Corps does their inspection, there are other places that have these that have had the same problem and have had to deal with it. And I know we have this discussion every year, it seems, about where are we going with the whole dike system and the hurricane protection system down there. So.
What our first step to do would be actually to hire a diver to go down and investigate exactly what the structure underwater looks like, so that we could put a plan together on how we either could, connect something to the inlet to do the flow from that side, and then, and then push the water out towards the land side.
So these things have nothing to do with private property.
No, it's all contained within the dike that the town owns.
Okay.
All right.
What'd you say, Tim?
I said, okay.
Oh.
Okay, so the West Broad Street school repairs, we're asking for $50,000. And in accordance with the lease with St. Michael's, it's expressly guaranteed that the landlord shall be required to expend no more than $50,000 in a fiscal year. So we've had some repairs this year, that some roofing repairs that we've already completed. We had a window basically that had the frame completely rotten out, that we had to take the window out and rebuild the frame. Broken windows and those types of things, which we classified them as capital repairs, and so we are asking that the $50,000 be placed in this fund, so that if it comes up that we need to do the additional work, we will have the funds there available to do so.
How much did the repairs you did this year come to total?
140.
We think around 140,000. We could get you the exact numbers if you would like.
This is Mike. This is one I'd prefer to know the specifics, or if there are specific items that need to be repaired, to understand what those are versus just a general fund that can be tapped into. I mean, I get it when it's things like paving and I'm more comfortable that way, but this is one I just my own personal preference. I don't speak on behalf of all the board members here, but I prefer to know exactly what's being proposed that we work on here, because we've got to consider the investment here and what our long-term strategy is, and I'm a little worried that if we just create a fund that can be utilized for various things over time, that we won't have a good handle on what it's truly costing us to maintain this facility. So
Okay.
I prefer to have specific proposals on this one.
We will prepare you an update of what we've had to expend and get that to Jim, so that you can see the repairs that we've needed to make. I can tell you too, we also our part-time building maintainer also goes there every day to check to make sure the boiler is running. And we've had some boiler repairs, and we had several days where there was no heat over there, that we needed to give attention to the school to make sure that the heat was working. Right, I think we have a lot of those things addressed now. But we'll give you a report of what we've had to do. It's, it doesn't just run by itself. We put a lot of effort into it, but things are running smoothly, but we still put time and effort into it.
But I think, Barbara, I think what Mike is saying, not only what you've spent, but you've got the assistant facility manager in there every day. It's, kind of like town hall. You see what might be coming down the road with a person in there every day. I think identifying those that are potential upcomings is really what more we're asking, as opposed to focusing on the rear view mirror. Again, I think the theme you're hearing repeatedly here is looking forward. With an eye towards history, but look forward. What are you anticipating coming forward?
We do know there's some issues with the roof, and we were only able to address one side of it. And so we'll put together a summary of the items that we see in the future.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. And the last one is Donahue Park security lighting. So this was a request from the beautification committee. And they have notified us of their concerns of safety in the park, Donahue Park, due to lack of lighting in the area. Therefore, requesting funding to allow us to obtain a consultant to review the existing lighting levels and make recommendations on locations and fixtures to utilize for improving the lighting and the safety there. And let me clarify, the $10,000 is not for the consultant, it's for the consultant and potentially hiring a contractor to install some lighting. So, and just to clarify, the cost of lighting, those poles that I showed you that are falling down on the bridge into the borough, replacement of those light poles is $4,000 each. And so, you know, public lighting is expensive. And so that's why we spread this out over 2 years.
Wait, Barbara, can I just ask you, did you say $4,000 a bulb?
No, the street lights on the bridge over the railroad to the borough.
Yep. Yeah.
They're falling down. They fall off because they're all rotten.
Right.
So to buy a new street fixture, the whole fixture,
Okay.
and replace it is $4,000.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you said that was the light bulb, so I was shocked.
So for one fixture, it's $4,000. Yeah, those are the cheap ones, actually. So.
Other questions from board members? No? Any questions in general from the board members about SIP operating? Anything that you've thought of? Or Barbara or Tom or Chris, anything that you guys want to add as we kind of come to the end of the SIP here?
Tim, I would just like to say that, you know, I'm crying in my soup here over these numbers, but I'd rather see them and know them. So, you know, I'm glad you put it out here, and I hope you put, you know, what really does need to happen here so we can kind of plan. So I wanted to say that, but I also wanted to ask Jim Sullivan, have we got any money left over from the $1 million there that was in the WPCA SIP?
Yeah, I think there's still $350,000, $400,000 left there.
Okay.
Yeah, and Lynn, that was, you know, so that was one of the things I was thinking of, that I mentioned earlier about Barbara perhaps coming to us sooner rather than later if there's an opportunity to accelerate some paving rather than
Exactly.
You know, not come, you know, waiting till the fall or the next, you know, spring of 2022. So yeah, I'd rather get moving on some of that if we've got.
Yeah, it's not always a good. Well, it's nice to drive around on a good road, but it also, the longer it deteriorates, the harder it is to fix it.
Yep.
So, I agree with you.
Any other comments from members? Nope. All right, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Barbara, Tom, and Chris, thanks for presentation. And having no other business before the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Anyone opposed? No, thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome.